One minute feeling singing. You're my inspiration and also my biggest threat.
So as Jimmy takes his last photo. I'm so excited to introduce you to my dear friend and co-founder of Brrrn, Jimmy Martin. Brrrn is the world's first and only cool temp fitness experience, and we're gonna talk about a lot of really fun stuff today. I think probably one of the most interesting things about Jimmy is his story. Wow. Can I just like punt that over to you? Like,
I'm receiving it, and I want to say that I'm very
huge, just
handing
like
off, going. Yeah. Tell us your life story. Go ahead. Well, first off, thank you for having me here. You haven't lost any physique since we've last seen each other. I am one of the two founders of Brrrn. We opened in 2018 in the most competitive neighborhood in the world for fitness. Before we get to that, my background, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. My mom's a small town hairdresser. My dad was my coach my whole life, so insert a lot of therapy. Was an athlete. Got a scholarship to wrestle at a Division I school in Virginia called George Mason University. Trained in the heat my whole life, and that sort of was the backbone of why I don't like heat as much for movement-based exercises. And how, you know, I came to New York not for fitness. I came to be a writer and performer, to be a late-night writer. I tried to have a sense of humor to give people a no-joke workout experience. I've rehearsed that line and I flubbed it as I delivered it, which is why I don't work in comedy.
So obviously Jimmy's like hands down probably one of my most funny friends. He is also probably one of my most informative friends, specifically as it pertains to cold exposure and the power that cold has on us. I've been experimenting with it for years. I've personally seen some incredible results. Brrrn, which is 2 blocks away from our office, is one of my favorite facilities. That's not bullshit by any means. I am there quite often, and I'm happy that I know the owner.
It's good. It's a good perk. Yeah.
And I'm really happy that he loves formula.
I love formula. Oh my God. Motivation is my go-to, by the way. Motivation and energy. As you can tell, I have a lot of motivation and a lot of energy right now.
For people who have heard it but don't understand exactly why it's beneficial to make ourselves cold, what is the 101 entry-level understanding of like why we now think or why now it's becoming a little bit more pop culturally relevant to do stuff while cold?
Sure, cold is the new ayahuasca. Problem is it's been a threat for millennia, like since we've been in these bodies, right? We've had to survive it. It's not fun to be cold and not move. But what's interesting is that more people now, and we are leaders in this movement with applying it to exercise, it should be seen as an ally, not an enemy. And whether it's a cold shower or a cold plunge, cryotherapy, or turn a thermostat down to exercise, you're finding that heat discourages movement and cooler temperatures encourage it. The myth that we sought to debunk was that a hot and sweaty workout is not necessarily a great workout. Having wrestled in like 100-degree rooms with rubber suits, cutting 6, 8, 10 pounds of water weight to make weight, it was very dangerous. It was more of like the heat aspect is more of a mental barrier to get through, but it does not set your body up for success to move efficiently. We bask in the heat. Like that's why we like it. Like it just feels good. Like it feels good to be warm, the sunlight, right? But what we do, I mean, we offer low to high impact group exercise classes in 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 degrees Celsius for all your French. You're across the pond. And it feels like a crisp fall morning, not a dark wintry night. So literally trying to warm people up to the idea of like doing something that they've never done before was a challenge, but it's allowed us to still be relevant today, even though obviously the times that we're living in right now.
You're the first one that really introduced me and started teaching me about Ray Cronice. For people who don't even understand the benefit, like why this whole why are people taking cold showers? Why are people jumping in ice tubs? Like what is all of this Wim Hof stuff that we hear about, or XBT and Laird Hamilton? What is going on in our body when we show it cold?
Yeah. What's interesting is my better half, Johnny, is a former public health official. He was on Mayor Bloomberg's obesity task force, and really his whole purpose with his job when he was working there was how your environment can nudge healthy behavior. When you're speaking about Ray Cronice, for those who don't know, is a former NASA scientist. He was extremely obese from figuring out not NASA-related problems, which I don't blame him. It's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Right. But he noticed like Michael Phelps was really trim, even though he would eat so much food. And he's like, raised an expert in thermodynamics. And he's like, well, that means like he must be doing the breaststroke like 10 some hours a day. But he's like, that's not possible. He's not doing that. So like, what's the catalyst for him to stay lean? And if anybody who's a competitive swimmer, they know like when you're training for a race or an event, the water's cooler. So he's swimming in colder water. So his body, and water's 24 times more thermoconductive than air. So his body is just like dumping heat. And it's being forced to keep itself warm by expelling, glucose, glycogen. And so he's burning fat with fat, essentially. And there's this whole thing about brown adipose tissue, which we can get into. But Ray saw this. He's like, wow, like what if I introduce cold into my life? Well, I see similar results. And he did a trial on himself, slept, he called them shiver walks, walked in the winter with like a t-shirt and shorts and slept with the windows open in the winter. And he lost a ton of weight.
Yeah.
And we have this all in our cold hard facts section of our page. You'll notice puns will be an ongoing theme with this, but they'll get you business, not friends. So let me just preface that. But that was interesting, right? And so when we initially were trying to articulate our concept and to really science proof it and to substantiate it, we went down to Huntsville, Alabama and spent time with him and said, tell us what you know. So he's been an advisor and a dear friend, and he has since pivoted to plant-based nutrition and just as successful and relevant as he was when he was focused on cold. But back to him, short story long, he co-authored papers with Dr. David Sinclair, Harvard geneticist.
Yeah, of course.
Did TED Talks, and his TED Talk in like 2009 got the attention of Tim Ferriss, who then put him into his book, The 4-Hour Body, and under the chapter Ice Age, and just sort of talked about cold essentially being an ally, not an enemy. So that all happened. He got publicity with that. The Wim Hof movement was kind of on the rise, like in the 2012, 13, 14, 15, and now like you say Wim Hof, most people know, if you're in the biohacking community, know who he is. And Wim's whole thing is like using cold exposure as one of the tenets of his method, which is cold exposure, flexibility, and sort of yoga-esque movements with breath work. The sort of pranayama, forced respiration, hypertonic, stuff that you would see in their own way with XPT. I'm realizing that it looks like I'm making dough with my hands right now, which is fine. The thesis is that we need to warm up to cold because it does a lot of great for the body. And the brown adipose tissue thing is like, we have white visceral fat, which is the fat that we wish away every new year. And then there's brown adipose tissue, which is a highly mitochondrial dense cell, which looks brown or beige under a microscope. We have an abundance of that when we're born. They found through research that doesn't just go away when you're an adult. It's alongside your spine, around your heart, all throughout your body. When you're in colder temperatures, specifically between 40 and 64 degrees Fahrenheit, which is called mild cold stress, that it activates wonderful things with the body because it uses available fat to help fuel your body. So like you're burning fat with fat. The fat's the furnace. The fat's the kindling to help keep your body warm. Because how do we stay warm and cold? Like if we're standing still, like the body has to find a way to layer itself to protect you, to keep your organs at 98.6. And it does that with the help of brown adipose tissue.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Until Brrrn reopens, if someone wants to start experimenting now, what do you recommend the first easiest way to start, and then what should the deliverable be that they expect?
Well, I think the most accessible way to be colder is not to stand in front of your freezer, but to just end your showers on cold. Take like 10 seconds just to sort of let it hit your body, feel the charge. Truth is, it's if you're taking a shower after a long day, it's the perfect thing to allow you to get into a restful state for sleep.
Yeah.
Because the way that we sleep well is not in a hot room. Like if you're a person who can fall asleep in a hot room, like more power to you. Write a book about how that's helpful. But polysomnologists, which are sleep doctors, so that's a good bar term when we're back in bars. Like,
fair enough.
That's like sleep doctor. They recommend sleeping in the 60s, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. for restful sleep. Cold water stimulates the vagus nerve, slows your heart rate down. Read all about the power of the vagus nerve. It's incredible. So the first source I would say is cold showers. Like when the weather gets a little cooler, don't be afraid to like go outside for a little bit, dress like it's summertime.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get sick. That's the biggest myth that we've been debunking, is that you get sick in the cold, typically pre-COVID, because there's more people indoors. We're around each other more in those months. Yeah, if we're outside, we're kind of like separated and spread out. It's merely a product of population density, not temperature. When it comes to performance, whether it's walking, power walking, jogging, running, doing any type of exercise, low to high impact, you feel like you have a superhero cape on your back. I know you felt firsthand in our fridge. Like, you're encouraged to move, and like the hardest thing to do anything, to start your journey or to continue it, is to be encouraged to move purposefully. And I feel the cold is the best navigator to do that.
Love.
Not heat.
Love.